Snap 'em, zap 'em, hold 'em, trap 'em. Mice, rats, or other rodents causing you grief? Get rid of them. Victor has the broadest, most innovative line of rodent and insect control products on the market. From our iconic snap traps with the big red Victor V to new products like Victor Holdfast, your mouse, rat, and insect problems are a thing of the past. There's a reason people have trusted Victor to get rid of pests for nearly 120 years. Because with Victor, it's done. Available at Walmart.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt, and you are at Venus Unplugged, the virtual heartbreak hotel. And what we do here is we explore all things Venusian, all things psyche, the unconscious, the soul, and what goes on in our human existence. And go to my website, LorraineNeithardt.com, or call me 212-757-8914, or leave a note on Venus Unplugged on Facebook. So what I want to go over today, or at least suggest, last week we worked with the descent, because at this time in the year, we actually do make a descent into the depths of the unconscious, into the psyche. And I want to talk about the Red Book and give an example of Carl Jung's journey into his psyche and what went on in him. Now, the Red Book is an exhaustive work, all right? And for those of you who really want to delve into this, certainly get it, even if you just look at the pictures, because it's quite beautiful. I know for myself, I started my Jungian work and analysis in 1985, and I didn't actually leave the analysis, the office of my mentor, until I guess it was 2008 or so, 2009. So it's easy to spend 25 years trolling in your dreams and your unconscious until it becomes second nature. The language of Jung, what it did for me, I was trained, my gift is clairvoyancy, and I was trained in all the esoteric arts. But what Jung gave me was the language of psyche, the language of the soul. And the most important aspect of Jung was the living psyche and what it means, the work with dreams, and something he called active imagination. Because Jung was all about the tension of the opposites. Two things were always going on, and we were not to choose one over the other. We were to bring them to consciousness, and then from there, once we had a hold on the opposites that were going on in a particular situation, and there's nothing like love or loved ones to bring up the opposite, as well as enemies, which is, I guess, kind of an inverse love teaching. Venus brings us enemies so we can really take a look at what we don't know about ourselves. So this is a very important work. And for those of you that feel a calling to that, just be still and work with it. It will bring great rewards. So Jung's Red Book, he started that in the year 1913. And he began the self-experiment that became known as the confrontation with the unconscious. And that lasted till 1930. Just him writing. And the Red Book was not published until 2009. The family feared that if the public read or had exposure to the Red Book, they would think that Jung was nuts, because that was his more mystical side. He wanted to be known as a man of science, although he was both, all right? So he talks about that the initial question to be directed would be, who or what has come alive in your psyche in these images? Okay, so we write down a dream, we see something in the dream, and we start wondering what that's about. So that's kind of the confrontation with one's own unconscious or psyche. It knows exactly what it's doing. We don't understand it, but psyche knows, all right, and the dreams know. And the dreams are trying to restore us to our wholeness. So we need to be patient and work with the images, or work with an analyst, or take some dream groups, or whatever it is that you can find that will help you understand what this symbolic language in you is all about. So he suggests, who or what has come alive? Who or what has entered my psychic life and created disturbances and wants to be heard? This is how he's approaching active imagination. And to this, you should add, let it speak, which means you get out of the way. You let it just come up. You don't have an opinion, and you don't repress it. This takes time, so be patient with your soul, but it's worth it. Because this is the opus of life. The opus is the central theme of life, is to become whole, what he called individuation. Individuation is when we begin to be able to, it's wholeness, it's becoming whole within ourselves. When the tension of the opposites, we're aware that that's going on. It is always going on. We are aware of projections. It doesn't mean that we don't stop and make lots of mistakes, but the individuation is the journey towards our own wholeness and becoming our authentic self with a capital S, and the authentic self is the pattern of the divine for us. So it's worth it, and it will take a lifetime, if not many. So he advises, let psyche, or let the unconscious speak, or let the images in the dream speak. Don't interpret. That's what the ego wants to do. Oh, I know that. And then we switch off the noisy conscious, and we listen quietly inward, and we look at the images that appear before your inner eye, or hearken to the words which the muscles of your speech apparatus we are trying to form. Then he advises, write down what then comes out without criticism. This is a beautiful thing if we just learn this, just to observe. Because the criticism is an opinion, and so often when you realize, like, why do I believe that? That's what I was told. Is that my truth? Is that what I believe to be true? And the images should be drawn or painted. It doesn't matter about your skill. Just even a rough stick figure, it will have meaning, okay? And once you've gotten at least fragments of those contents, okay, then you may mediate on them afterwards. Don't criticize anything, away. If any questions arise, put them to the unconscious again the next day. Don't be content with your own explanation, no matter how intelligent they are. And treat any drawings the same way. Mediate and meditate on them afterwards, and every day go on developing what is unsatisfactory about them. The important thing is to let the unconscious take the lead. So the unconscious, psyche, the soul. And some people are into spirit, some people are into soul. I love the language of the soul. For me, it's rich and powerful and helps. So I'm going to read here from the Red Book, Experiences in the Desert. Okay, so Jung, this is like 1913, so we're talking 100 years from ago. This is what this man was doing. He was a pioneer. Some say he was the kind of the grandfather of the New Age, because he began to activate the powers of the unconscious, which always existed. He just seemed to work on it more. So he talks here. This is a quote. Okay, after a hard struggle, I have come a piece of the way nearer to you. Now he's talking to his soul. How hard this struggle was. I had fallen into the undergrowth of doubt, confusion, and scorn. All right, so Jung, just like us, doubt, confusion, and scorn, then we know we're on the royal road to consciousness. If we think we know, scratch further, because the doubt, the confusion, the scorn, the sorrow, the dissent, these are all important signs that we are going into the underworld. And he says here, I recognize that I must be alone with my soul. I come with empty hands to you, my soul. What do you want to hear? But my soul spoke to me and said, if you come to a friend, do you come to take? I knew that this would not be so, but it seems to me that I am poor and empty. I would like to sit down near you and at least feel the breath of your animating presence. Now notice the word animating. That's what the soul does. When he talks about the anima, that's when a man's soul is activated. It's alive. And when the soul is alive and animating, we feel alive. Okay? My way is hot sand all day long, sandy, dusty paths. My patience sometimes weak, and once I despaired of myself, as you know. So he's talking to his soul. He's making it alive. He's talking about the journey and this and his active imagination. So these what I'm reading here is his actual experience of many actual experiences of active imagination. Then he states, my soul answered and said, you speak to me as if you were a child complaining to its mother. I am not your mother. I do not want to complain, but let me say to you that mine is a long and dusty road. So he is complaining. You are to me like a shady tree in the wilderness, and I would like to enjoy your shade. But my soul answered, you are pleasure-seeking. Where is your patience? What time your time has not run its course? Have you forgotten why you went into the desert? So this dude is totally in touch. And that is the way the soul. It's not our mother. We have to earn the right to have communion with her, with Venus, with the power of this. Okay? Then he states, my faith is weak. My face is blind from all that shimmering blaze of the desert sun. The heat lies on me like lead. This thirst torments me. I dare not think how unendingly long the way is, and above all, I see nothing in front of me. But the soul again answers, you speak as if you have still learned nothing. Can you not wait? Should everything fall into your lap, ripe and finished? You are full, yes. You teem with intentions and desires. Do you still not know that the way to the truth stands openly only to those without intentions? Whoa! That's what his soul is telling. Forget your intentions and your wish list and your bucket list and what you deserve. The soul has ruthless compassion. Until you truly surrender, become humble like the earth, then she answers, okay? And then Jung says, I know that everything you say, O my soul, is also my thought, but I hardly live according to it. The soul said, how? Tell me. Do you then believe that your thoughts should help you? And he says, I would always like to refer to the fact that I am a human being, just a human being, who is weak and sometimes does not do his best. But the soul said, is this what you think it means to be human? Jung says, you are hard, my soul, but you are right. How little we still commit ourselves to living. We should grow like a tree that likewise does not know its lore. We tie ourselves up with intentions, not mindful of the fact that intentions is the limitation, yes, the exclusion of life. We believe that we can illuminate the darkness with an intention, and in that way aim past the light. How can we presume to know in advance and from what light will come to us? Let me bring only one complaint before you, he says to his soul. I suffer from scorn, my own scorn. But my soul said to me, do you think of yourself? I do not believe so, my soul answered. Then listen, do you think little of me? Do you still not know that you are not writing a book to feed your vanity, but that you are speaking with me? How can you suffer from scorn if you address me with those words that I give you? Do you know then who I am? Have you grasped me, defined me, made me into dead formula? Have you measured the depths of my chasms and explored all the way down, which I'm going to lead you? Yikes. Okay? Scorn cannot challenge you if you are not vain to the marrow of your bones. And Jung says to his soul, your truth is hard. I want to lay down my vanity before you, since it blinds me. See, that is why I also believe my hands were empty when I came to you today. I do not consider that it is you who fills my empty hands, if only they want to stretch out. Yet they do not want to. I do not want to, that I am your vessel. I want to be empty, everything without you, but brimming over with you. So here he's having this dialogue, very much like a poet or a creative or a person, or we struggle with anything creative, whether we're aware of it or not. This struggle is going on, this struggle with psyche, with our soul. And it tells us. Then it continues here. And he writes in the Red Book, okay, this was my 25th night in the desert. So he does an active imagination that he's in a desert, just like the Gnostics spent years and years and years in the desert. Well, 40 years Moses spent in the desert. Right, so desert's a big thing. Desert also represents, if we dream of sand or desert, okay, that represents all our past lives, the sands of time. Okay, so this was my 25th night in the desert. This is how long it took my soul to awaken from a shadowy being to her own life, until she could approach me as a freestanding being separate from me. So he distilled this from his conscious mind. He was able to separate this. And I received hard but true words from her. I needed that taking in hand, since I could not overcome the scorn within me. So even Jung had an attacking side. We all do. And it attacks us. And part of the attacking is so that we don't get conscious. We have to earn this. And that's part of what active imagination is about. Okay? So then he writes, spirit of this time considers itself extremely clever. Like every such spirit of the time. This is his soul talking. But wisdom is simple-minded, not just simple. Because of this, the clever person mocks wisdom, since mockery is his weapon. He uses the pointed, poisonous weapon because he is unstruck by naive wisdom. If he were not struck, he would not need the weapon. Only in the desert do we become aware of our terrible simple-mindedness, but we are afraid of admitting it. That is why we are scornful. But mockery does not attain simple-mindedness. The mockery falls on the mocker. And in the desert, where no one hears and answers, he suffocates from his own scorn. Whoa. Okay? The cleverer you are, the more foolish your simple-mindedness. The totally clever are total fools in their simple-mindedness. We cannot save ourselves from the cleverness of the spirit of this time through increasing our cleverness, but through accepting what our cleverness hates most, namely simple-mindedness. Yet we also do not want to be artificial fools because we have fallen into simple-mindedness. Rather, we have to be clever fools. This leads to supreme meaning. Cleverness couples itself with intention. Simple-mindedness knows no intention. Cleverness conquers the world, but simple-mindedness, the soul. So take on the vow of poverty of spirit in order to partake of soul. Against this scorn of my cleverness rose up. And he quotes, "Many will laugh at my foolishness, but no one will laugh more than I laugh at myself. So I overcome scorn, but when I have overcome it, I was nearer to my soul, and she could speak to me. And I was soon seeing the desert becoming green." So this is what's going on now. When we first start out in active imagination, you don't get this far, but eventually you do. Eventually you really can feel what the soul's intention is, what the conscious mind is, what the shadow is. You start discerning all this. And then you, when you start living that, you can feel a different sense of self. And you can make these descents. Your dreams will give you information. You're constantly in communion. And with the Jungian work, the belief is, that and this is also what Venus Unplugged is about, is trying to help you understand that what is within informs our outer life. That's where events happen. We're creating, we're co-creating. And when we can take the responsibility of that on with wisdom and with knowing ourselves, our world is very different. And so that's part of this descent. We're making a descent, particularly at this time of the year, into our unconscious, into our psyche, speaking with her. And then comes, in the Christian tradition, then comes Christmas, which is the birth of what? It's the birth of the true you. It's the birth of the new babe. It is the birth of the holy child in you. So it's a completely different way. So Jung believed, and I think many people are starting to understand this, that all religions profound and all offered something profound. One isn't better than the other. He felt that with Christianity, that what Christ was talking about was the cross that he was on, the cross of matter, was also the cross that every human being is on. And that cross is the opposites within ourselves. And when we learn to harness those opposites, commune with them, communicate with them, discern what they do really mean, it's a very, very rich language, then we're transformed. Because the belief is, Christ is the symbol of the individuated person, the person who became whole within himself. So that's pretty cool when we start looking at it that way. So that's what this season is about, and that's what, when we begin to, how do we really love ourselves? We have to know ourselves before we can really have that love. And we have to have compassion for the shadow and the part of us that's weak and the part of it that doesn't know and the part of it that's completely human. And then when we need to be able to grieve when sorrow happens, because the grieving is a teaching too. See, and it's very interesting because there's certain astrological things that are going to be happening mid-December, which is just, people are going to they've been in this huge descent, and I don't know one person who death or sorrow is not at their door, or someone close to them, or a relative. Big, big teachings. But then comes the event, because we accept the sorrow, we see it for what it is. This is what makes us human, if we don't resist it. And then there's going to come these great insights, because when Uranus goes direct and through Aries, it's going to be like whack. People are going to be waking up. They're going to have brilliant insights. So it should be interesting what's going to be in our Christmas stockings. There's not going to be coal. It's going to be wisdom. So, it's understanding that the spirit of the depths, this is Jung here, the spirit of the depths even taught me to consider my action and my decision as dependent, in this case, on dreams and active imagination. Dreams and active imagination pave the way for life, and they determine you without you understanding the language. One would like to learn this language, but who can teach and learn it? Scholarliness alone is not enough. There is a knowledge of the heart that gives deeper insight. The knowledge of the heart is in no book, and it's not to be found in the mouth of any teacher, but grows out of the green seed from the dark earth. Scholarliness belongs to the spirit of this time, but this spirit in no way grasps the dream or the active imagination, since the soul is everywhere that scholarly knowledge is not. That's from Carl Jung's Red Book, page 233. So he talks about this. So be patient. It's a great loss to the ego to not know. But it is great wisdom to accept not knowing. That's kind of the simple-mindedness, because we don't know. And I learned this a long time ago. When something comes up, and you start telling yourself this story, but then when you start to say, where would I get this information from? Why do I feel so strongly about that? I don't know that. Maybe that's not true. Let me make my mind passive, or my active imagination passive. Receive it. Why am I upholding something that I was told? I don't know that it's true. Or it may not be true to my being, or it may not be true at this moment. Maybe it'll be true tomorrow. So this is part of the gift that this man's work. Now, of course, he just wanted initially, read dreams, memoirs, and reflections, and also any book by Robert Johnson. But his book, Inner Work, also teaches about active imagination. Be patient with yourself in learning it. It is a skill. It is a language like any other language. It takes loving time and intention and a kind of simple-mindedness. And the simple-mindedness is when we're just simple. We just make it easy. We don't make it complicated. So Inner Work by Robert Johnson. I reread all of Johnson's books every year. And every year I'm blown away with how much I missed, because it always gives a gift. So perhaps giving yourself the gift of the Red Book, it's daunting, pictures are great. And as you're in this descent and as you begin to see what's going on in your life, be kind, question. Don't have an answer. Let your soul answer. Because when you get that connection, it is astounding. And you will know the difference. Just like in the text that I read today. The soul, man, she's something else. She knows who she is, and it's not what the soul can do for you, because that is definitely not the right attitude. It's like, come on, help me, do this. No, It's about being in service to your soul. It's how may I serve you? And when we can give the ego up and really serve the soul, you'll still have suffering, but you'll have meaning. And that's the important thing. So until next week, and your descent into the underworld, write down your dreams, practice your active imagination. As I said, Inner Work by Robert Johnson. We'll give you some hints on that, or I think he may even have some tapes on that. And let me know how you're doing. 212-757-8914. Bye.
Progressive presents Mindflowness with Flow.
Before you lies a beautiful meadow. In that meadow, Progressive Direct has placed its auto insurance rates alongside those of competitors. You select the lowest rate and feel a great sense of calm. A great sense of...
Compare Progressive Direct rates with competitors' rates so you can rest easy. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.